Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen, and we are live on YouTube. We will patiently await some of your questions, and what we're going to do today for those that are just joining us now is we are going to do a bit of live reporting. So if you can use that super chat option, especially since we're being so heavily demonetized here at WAM and pushed under the rug and censored by the big conglomerate that gets a whole bunch of taxpayer money, YouTube. It would be great if you send us some ideas, and we will look at those ideas and we will try and do a live report on it. Of course, it says 0 watching, but we have comments coming in, so obviously YouTube's a little bit glitchy as per usual. Let's just call it glitchy. But anyway, John, so what we're going to do is we're going to take questions, hopefully from super chat and etc. We will get to a point where we will have a lot of comments coming in, and it'll be hard to keep up with. But anyway, I do have a question here from Flacoville12, who says, do you know about STEEMIT and DTube? Yeah, we're one of the top accounts on STEEMIT and DTube. I got on DTube the day that it came out, so I got in there really early, and I got on STEEMIT I think July 2016 or something like that. Love it. It's been a lifesaver for independent media.
Well, yeah, especially with the demonetization we've seen on YouTube. It's just been vicious. It's been really good. Really good.
Yeah, it's saved our lives. Mm-hmm. So it says Havoji Mezer, hi from Croatia. Maybe I'm not pronouncing that right. I'm not great with my Croatian accents and etc. But anyway, so for those just joining us again, we're going to take some questions, hopefully from the super chat, so we're going to take the question or report or whatever you want, and we will do a live report on it, and maybe we'll put it up later if it turns out good. We can't live edit because we don't know what we're about to report on, but it'll give you an idea of what we kind of do when we do these videos.
Just to cheer up my Croatian friend over there, I actually work with a Croatian myself, Šupak.
I have no idea what he's calling me there. Anyway, so let's see. So one guy really wants us to talk about DJ Mystery. Wants us to talk about the Fed meeting and what's going on with the Fed meeting. What particular meeting, John? Do you know what he's talking about?
I'm not 100% sure what kind of Fed meeting he's talking about. It's just the Federal Open Committee meetings where they just talk mumbo jumbo and. Why is there anybody even focusing on any Fed meetings? The Fed is just, destroying the economy as it is. Why should
they're gonna diligently plot to take over the world?
Well, they're gonna keep on raising slowly interest rates. That's what they're gonna do. Some people believe that Trump and his lackeys are gonna put in a gold standard. I can't see how they're gonna do that. Without and a gold standard. Me and Josh have talked about it so many times. Like a gold standard is just garbage when the government is running it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one guy asked us if, can you guys meet with Peter Schiff? Maybe I'll send John to do that. I have met Peter Schiff, and we don't get along very well.
Yeah, he doesn't know too much about me, I'm hoping, so I might have a little bit of a better foot talking to him.
Yeah, I've talked with him before. Very strange situation. Anyway, he called me an anti-Semite on his podcast a while back ago because I mentioned him among several others at Gold Money who... sold their company to a corporation that had a Series A investor, which was George Soros. I just called it out. I basically said, okay, these are the people involved in the shareholder agreements and everything. And then Peter Schiff, even though I mentioned nothing about Jews or anything, he went on his podcast and called me an anti-Semite to the world. So, we don't get along very well, obviously.
So the same guy that talked about the Fed meeting, he's saying he's buying Fed coin. Well, that'd be fun, let's all buy into. Actually, Simon Dixon, when we did an interview, and I just want to touch upon this quickly, he said something really interesting. He said that it won't be bail-ins, guys. What I think really happened, and this is from him talking to a lot of bankers on a daily basis, he said they'll just let the banks go bankrupt. And at the time they go bankrupt, they said there's going to be no bail-ins, there's going to be no bailouts. You lost your money. It's your loss. But we're going to give you some Fed coins, we're going to give you some can coins, whatever they want to call them, whatever country you're in. And if you decide to, give us all, let us, give you all your money back, well, you got to come into our new system, which is completely cashless society.
And by the way, I want to just show everyone, this is John's shirt. It's like a dead Che Guevara, I think.
There we go.
Socialism
kills. It says kills.
Yeah. Let's just be.
It's not socialism.
Yeah. It was funny because I was talking with him before we went live here. It's only going to show socialism. When we did the election coverage in 2016, I had a shirt that said Hillary for prison on it. But for most of the live stream, people were only seeing Hillary on it, so they thought I was like some diehard Hillary supporter. I'm like, no. Anyway, one person asked. Let me see. I saw a question from Laura M here. Let me just scroll up in the conversation a bit here. John, I read you are going to write a book. When will it be ready for me to buy it? That's from Laura M. John?
Well, with any book that I've written, it usually takes about a year for me to put everything together. I'm hoping to do it as fast as I can, but with I'm limited. I have a full-time job, so which we were hoping to, this year is going to be the year that I could actually go full-time. So it gives me, with that, it would give me 10 hours a day extra every single, weekday, which is fantastic. So I'll probably say about a year until it's actually published and out there. But yeah, it's going to be on Cashless Societies.
And it could be faster than that too. I mean, if he's doing full-time soon, that depends on you and your super chats, just so you know. But I mean, of course, been pushed
and the more money we have here, the faster we can put things out. I would love to, focus my time so much more onto this type of stuff, because this is my passion. This is I want to change the world that we live in, and for every single human being out there, we want to give them their freedom back. So I really want to focus fully on that, and that's where our passion lies, and that's what we're going to focus on getting and making happen very fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me see. One person, Wyatt, mentions that's bull that he would call you an anti-Semite. He's a really good economist. So I actually absolutely agree. Peter Schiff has done great work over the years. It's talking about fiat and centralization. However, with cryptocurrencies, he's way off and way off. But yeah, he's and he has had some.
Like a lot of the smart gold people are saying, like, listen. Are you guys not seeing what cryptocurrencies want to do? They're wanting to do the exact same thing as the gold and silver ones. It's not a competition. We're working together. It's even better that we have Bitcoin and other decentralized currencies. We're fighting against the same beast, and it's way better to have more people, because with Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, you're getting so many more other people in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so important to mention centralization versus decentralization. Decentralization is the future. Of course, if you're using, people always equate digital currency, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and Bitcoin all into one bunch, and they all have similar things in common, but they're not the same. Of course, the difference, everyone says Bitcoin is fiat 2.0. That's just absolute nonsense. Fiat is legal tender currency based in debt and just created out of thin air with no cap on creation, centralized entirely, just amazing amounts created, fractional reserve lending.
Fiat means by it shall be.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. Yeah. But Bitcoin is decentralized, free market competing currency, not legal tender, not enforced by law, based on scarcity, demand, application use, etc. And of course, it has a cap on creation at 21 million by the year 2140. So,
well, it's not as good as gold and silver, but I see it as such a fantastic tool to work together with gold and silver to punch through the walls of the Federal Reserve, so it finally crumbles that old building.
Yeah, people don't seem to realize that. Like I'm for historical story of wealth, like wealth insurance, of course, gold and silver all the way. But I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin as it helps to bring down the central banking system and can very well do that. And of course, like one of the things I wanted to mention though is like with Peter Schiff and gold money. So gold money allows you to spend gold, which I don't know why you do. And basically, they get the gold and the company gets the fiat, and you end up with the product, but then you just spent gold instead of fiat. Don't you want to get rid of the fiat and not get rid of the gold? Shouldn't you be saving the gold? I find that there's a lot of investment, playing around with trying to get people to get in on this investment with him. So I think that has a lot to do with the issues that I've had with him, because of course, like gold money is a great idea. That is if we're actually trading gold for products rather than trading gold. They get the gold, the company gets the fiat, you get the product, and you lose your gold.
Also, what you got to remember, Nick Szabo, that's a part of Gold Money. He was actually one of the first Bitcoin guys as well.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people at Gold Money that are involved in cryptocurrencies. Trace Mayer is a great example, and Trace Mayer is an awesome guy. I just have some issues with Gold Money as a whole. Yeah. Max Kaiser is an amazing person. We've interviewed him. We've taken a lot of his guests.
He's good friends.
I don't know.
James. Oh, sorry. I totally forgot the guy's name. Just to blank it out there. Of course, this is live, so sometimes you just lose it, and we can edit it out other places. But of course, it's live. It was what's his name, Josh? One of the head guys, older guy. That works for Gold Money. Please, guys, please fill us in here.
I have no idea.
Yeah, but he has been tremendous. No, not Sprott.
And not Joshua Crum.
Yeah, but anyways, he's been fantastic in putting. James Turk has been fantastic in putting out great videos. One of the best videos ever is him and Max Kaiser's coverage of the French Revolution and the collapse in bond issues and like the whole structure of it. That's so similar for today. So there's so many smart minds there. We have our issues with them working together with one of the worst people in the world, George Soros.
Yeah. Okay. RVing we go asks, hey Josh, what do you do for income? This. And not much income, but I'm passionate about it. I love it. Let's see. We got a question from Harrison. It's just pushed up in the chat. I got to scroll up here. Just one sec. It says, what are bonds? How do they work? Well, I think John could pretty easily explain that one.
Well, bonds are quite simple. A bond is issued when somebody goes into debt. And it's basically, the bond is almost like you kind of borrowing that person the money. You're just taking over the debt from them. And then you get an income, which is them paying interest. That's how simple it is, a bond. It's just called a bond because you're holding interest in the debt that somebody else got into, and you're actually getting income from that debt.
Now, and into more context here, talk about what a junk bond is.
Well, junk bond is, of course, almost like the junk bond is so risky that the bond will be defaulted on at any given time, and that's what they call junk bonds. It's basically CCC rated or like BBB rated or lower that you see junk bonds, and some banks are even into junk bonds ratings right now. And countries are ending up there, of course. Venezuela, Greece, a couple other countries have ended up being junk bonds. And of course, junk bonds have been yielding higher than U.S. bonds. But that should just tell you that U.S. bonds are maybe not as safe and secure as we've been told throughout the ages, and maybe the whole paradigm of the U.S. dollar world reserve currency system is falling apart because it's based on fiat and fractional reserve banking system, which is basically making us collapse.
Yeah, and Exposing World Elite says bonds are theft.
Exactly. Especially when they're negative.
Yeah.
Why would you buy a negative bond?
Well, the fact that anyone, anyway, and we've talked about the bond buybacks recently within the Canadian budget and everything. Let's look on to what is next here. We got a lot of compliments. I appreciate it. Michael Ruiz, Josh and John, what do you all think about lending coins? In what context? Like lending coins as in like lending?
Are we talking about cryptocurrency coins that they create and then they can borrow them? I remember actually this was kind of like I just got scammed out of so much money through this platform where you can borrow your Bitcoins and then they paid you back in more Bitcoins.
This was years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is years. And a good friend of mine, Josh Nekrep, also he showed me this platform. And we made some money initially, but then it kind of fell apart because there was no accountability. And the problem is, again, if you borrow too much money to one little sector, there's not going to be enough money to pay back. It's when you have interest, that's totally fine in some small spaces. But when everybody's getting into debt and getting into interest, that is one of the big problems, because suddenly at one point there's so oversaturated the market with debt that there can be no more debt created in that market, and then you need more debt in order to pay all that interest off. So that's why you get collapses in different sectors.
And of course, we're talking like the early days of cryptocurrency when there wasn't a lot of fundamental infrastructure built around it, where you were going to like Japanese gaming websites to buy it. We got a few, BitConnect. What an obvious scam that was. Let's see. Just looking through some of this, BitConnect is a lending coin. Oh yeah, I see what you mean. So kind of like the pyramid schemes, you get this if you give us this, and we'll give you this residual.
Oh, okay, BitConnect lending coin. Okay, I get it.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to be doing a show tomorrow with Luke Rudowski of We Are Change on cryptos. We took a week off. I'm thinking of just doing this every second week instead, because it's like we're just blindsiding people with crypto news. But if you have any stories that you want us to report on, I still have no idea what I'm going to be talking about on the show tomorrow. So send us some news so I can...
And that's why, like, people have asked us, why are you not talking about Bitcoin? Why are you not talking about Bitcoin, John and Josh? Well, Josh has been so busy on that side, so there's no point really of us talking too much about Bitcoin.
I'm doing a weekly show to 515,000 people on cryptocurrency.
So it's not necessary. We have done a couple of them lately, but and we will continue, do a little bit of reporting here and there.
Well, I want to be interviewing Stephen Kendall again soon, so I'm probably going to work out something with that. He has this promo STEEMIT campaign going on. I believe you can go to promosteemit.com or Google promo STEEMIT.
Yeah, do it.
Promo Steem
it's great. Like you can help out, getting the great word about the decentralized STEEMIT platform, which is saving people's lives, especially the people that were on YouTube and dependent on YouTube, that were completely demonetized. They can come over to STEEMIT and to DTube and be able to make a little bit of money, actually more a lot of times than they were making at YouTube, because it's a free market. People get voted on because their content is good, not just because they can get a lot of views. Yeah, and
Dan P asks, when will housing crash? Well, I mean, as we go into a lot, the fundamentals are off the table due to the level of manipulation in the monetary system and the market. So you can't put a date on when it's going to happen. You just know it's inevitable and has to happen. And Toronto, it depends where you're talking about. There's Toronto, there's Vancouver, but then there's like Winnipeg. There's hyper-localized markets everywhere. There's Austin, Texas. Then there's Dallas, Texas.
Well, the obvious ones right now that are very dangerous. It's, of course, Iceland, which is growing like fastest in the world. Then you have others, of course, we talked about San Francisco and Toronto. Toronto is actually going down right now. We'll see if they're trying to put in and manipulate it up again like they did in Vancouver. But it gets to a point, like you can only put so much debt into, as I said, into a market before it gets over-exaggerated. And then you suddenly see, and we could probably see it soon, it's kind of under the table, you see different loans coming out, you see the ninja loans maybe coming back again. And then, of course, like one thing, I saw it in the city here, Josh, I was driving on McPhillips one morning on my way back from work, and you see this big yellow building, like car loan building. It says credit for the little guy, and then one of the things that they actually give you is title loans. And this is a thing, I'm not sure if we did a video on this way back, Josh, but you can actually take out an equity line of credit on your car on a massively depreciating asset. How insane is that? But that's what they're pushing out and creating recently, Josh. And these are dangers that are out there, just mass accumulation of debt everywhere. And I think like we'll see sooner than later a debt collapse, because how can we sustain this substantial amount of debt that we're getting into? But I think there's like a chart, that the hockey stick that they talk about in the climate change movements and everything. That's what you'll get with debt as well.
Yeah, and Dan says BC, Vancouver Island, Victoria. I mean, there's a lot happening around BC. Even if you go outside of Vancouver, you're going to find high housing prices and not enough demand.
I see the name recession here, but in my point of view, and from what I've seen in the economy has been propped up by debt. So really, when you look at debt growth versus actually real growth, you have way more debt growth, over double mostly. And we've really been in a depression since 2008. We haven't even, like they're talking about maybe seeing a recession. I think we've been in a depression ever since, and we're going to end up in a bigger depression because we created so much debt and created such an unsustainable economy.
Yeah, and Crypto Frenchman says they can milk us for another 10 years. They make the rules as they go. Well, yeah, it's amazing how much manipulation can put off the crash, but it can't forever, and the more it's put off, the bigger it's going to come down. Wyatt Campbell says, have you watched the debate between Kaiser and Schiff on crypto? I didn't get a great first impression of Kaiser. Well, I mean, it depends on the individual, to each their own. I saw a lot of the debate, and it kind of gave me a headache because it was like the old points that Schiff was making about how Bitcoin is fiat, which, I mean, it surprises me because it's like, what, you don't know what fiat or Bitcoin is then? Because Bitcoin and fiat are so incredibly different from each other that to say that Bitcoin is fiat is basically, and also on top of that, he's like, well, everyone's saving it, they're not spending it. Yeah, that's kind of what they're doing with gold too, and that's a good thing. If something is going up in value or something ensures wealth, why would you spend it? You spend the fiat that's going to be worth nothing.
Physical metal is not an investment. It should be a it should be a wealth insurance. When it comes to gold investments, that's like mining stocks, and you invest in companies that extract mining. That's more of that.
Yeah. Now, Darth Shady asks, what are your thoughts on the Google crypto ad ban, and how can we promote STEEMIT on Facebook without getting banned ourselves? So this is a big one because there has been a recent ad ban on cryptos, because it's like, well, people can't be responsible for themselves and not make bad decisions because there's a lot of really bad ICOs out there. There's a lot of big scams out there in the crypto world. But that comes down to the individual. You don't walk down the street and some guy's like, hey, I'll exchange you a $5 bill that has magic powers for $1,000. If you exchange that $1,000 for that $5 magical bill, then you're probably not very smart, or very irresponsible anyway. So with the crypto ban on ads and everything, yeah, that's a big deal. Of course, they're saying that they can speak for us, they can make decisions for us, and that they will be our nanny, just like government. And people fall for that because people need a nanny and a mommy and daddy government or governing force.
Well, and it's just a natural outcome because they are getting threatened by them. So that's why they're actually coming out and banning a lot of it. When it comes to STEEMIT and promoting it on Facebook, we haven't seen any bans yet actually like pushing STEEMIT articles or talking about STEEMIT yet. So
well, I mean, I've seen a lot of people get banned from posting for a while as spam for sharing STEEMIT posts on Facebook.
Well, and that have happened to me too. So maybe you're
no. There definitely is an algorithm pushing STEEMIT.
Well, it is a competition, and they have a monopoly. That's the thing.
And
right?
Facebook has been talking about creating their own cryptocurrency. Again, don't mix up digital currency, cryptocurrency, blockchain, and Bitcoin all as one, because they all have different principles and fundamentals. But they are talking about putting out a digital currency anyway when it comes to Facebook, because they see that they're a little bit afraid. Yeah, of course, STEEMIT isn't growing at the same rate as everything else because they don't have the advertising campaigns that everything else has, which is why what Stephen Kendall is doing is so important with promo Steem. But of course, there's a huge issue with social media right now. Everyone's being censored, and they're basically shooting themselves in the foot. Facebook said themselves that they realize that their recent decisions will lose them money, because I go on Facebook one day and at the top there's a message from Mark Zuckerberg, and he's like, we know you don't want to see this stuff, you want to see this stuff instead. And I'm like, oh, you know what I want? Apparently you don't, because you're telling me the exact opposite of what I want to see, but you're gonna just force me not to see it, so okay, I guess so. So basically we're stuck in that situation where we're in that rut where they're shooting themselves in the foot, they're losing money, but it's not about money to them. It's about the monopoly on information, and it's about them being able to brainwash people, because people decentralize from newspapers to news media, and then from television news media to more decentralized social media, but still centralized. And now they're going from that more decentralized social media to much more decentralized social media like STEEMIT and DTube. So that's a big issue that we are moving towards, and they're shooting themselves in the foot. The one issue is that on YouTube we aren't as much preaching to the choir. It's not as much of an echo chamber. We're able to actually promote our message to people outside. And on STEEMIT and DTube, we still have some work to do to get more people from all different ideologies on there, so that we can promote our message to countless different people with different views. Michael Holidays gave us $5 in the super chat. Thank you very much. He says, keep up the good work, scumbags. Thanks, Michael. I appreciate that.
Who doesn't like to be called a scumbag, Josh? That's awesome.
I've never heard anyone call a scumbag before. I wonder where that comes from. Anyway, so thank you very much, Michael.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Very much appreciate it. And True Dope is a scumbag, says Harrison Hardcastle. That is to put it very lightly. Of course, I had to put it lightly as well, because I didn't want to have to deal with I wanted it to get into the mainstream media.
Well,
so that
yeah,
message
somebody
could
put
get
out a great meme with Trudeau, like right as Josh called him a scumbag with a little toque on his head saying scumbag on it.
Yeah, I love the memes
Yeah.
and hats too. I love the memes. Keep the scumbag Trudeau memes going. Hashtag scumbag Trudeau. Hashtag scumbag Trudeau. Anyway, and I'm still waiting for other people to do that because I'm banned from going anywhere near him in person. I could be tased or shot, all sorts of crazy stuff. So it's really hard for me to actually do what I did then again. I still regret not actually just standing in front of the podium and keep yelling at him. But of course, your fears get the best of you in that situation. It's hard not to be terrified when you're in front of a whole bunch of gigantic bodyguards with guns and tasers yelling at this prime minister.
Yeah, and then the little car, the KGB behind you, basically the media, being out there putting out their propaganda.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we got $13.99 from RVing We Go. Thank you very much. He says thank you. She I don't know, but thank you very much, RVing to Go. Really appreciate it. We can't do it without everyone because we are basically stuck between a rock and a hard place here on YouTube these days, and it's really been affecting our ability to get messages out. I like that number too, $13.99. Get it now while it's on sale.
Josh, I really want to interrupt there because we should just cover this quick story. Of course, we were talking about it just as we got going here. This story is really funny because here in the West we talk about helicopter money being implemented. Well, in Russia they don't have helicopter money. They got helicopter gold or plane gold.
Airplane gold.
Yeah, airplane gold. Yeah, which they had a significant amount of gold. Actually, I guess they forgot to close the hatchback or something. So when they took off, a ton of gold just fell all over the airfield on this airstrip, and they have YouTube videos of it. So very interesting. I hope to see airplane gold coming here to North America, hopefully. Where we could have an airdrop. I'm going to be on the forefront there. Let's buy a helicopter, Josh, and then drop it down. Problem with that, of course, it's the issues. We can't have two big bars, falling down. That would be killing people. But we should definitely have, little 1 ounce coins and stuff.
That would still kill people. Let's just throw powder.
We should have 1 gram bar. Throwing it out there. Having.
It sounds expensive. We'll need a lot of super chats to do this, by the way.
Yeah, but let's go out and have helicopter gold instead and save the world from this fiat apocalypse that we're facing.
Absolutely. Now, outside of that silliness, let's look on STEEMIT.com, see if anyone has done any comments. STEEMIT's been a little slow today, so it might take a bit loaded. Looks like no comments have come in. 23 upvotes, but no comments have come in. Anyway, if you're on STEEMIT, of course, follow us at Josh Sigurdson, and at The Economic Truth over there. Make sure to follow us and upvote our content because we're basically having to depend on STEEMIT these days after all is said and done on YouTube. But these super chat things actually help keep us alive because the monetization isn't very good, and these super chats kind of get around the monetization. We Are Change got banned from live streaming, so they can't even do that anymore. Just insane. Yeah. Anyway, they were broadcasting a live public domain broadcast from the State of the Union address, and they got banned from live streaming as copyright infringement from CNN because CNN tried to claim copyright infringement for a live C-SPAN video, which is public domain. Anyway, just ridiculous. Help them out if you can. Help independent media.
I saw something interesting about 70% of the gold. Can you go up there, Josh? I want to just see what he was saying there.
A lot of comments coming in. 75% of the gold was Canadian mined by Kinross.
Well, a lot of the gold came out of Canada, and it still is. There's still gold mines around, but the problem is nothing stays within Canadian borders. They ship it out and to Western investors, so ever want to buy it. Because here in Canada, of course, we got Bill Murneau. We confronted him, and he said that, gold is not of any value whatsoever, and he likes his fiat currency empire that he's creating here. Together with polls at the Canadian Central Bank, of course. Yeah. And Canada used to have 1,000, from my book, Canada, the Greatest Economy in the World, I have in there, we used to have 1,023 tons of gold here in Canada. That's actually very substantial. That's actually one of the highest amounts of gold that would have been probably number 5 or something today of countries. But of course, I think the gold should be in the person's hands rather than the government's control, because then they could create, other gold standards and create this scheme all over again like they did in 1917. They had a gold standard, with Federal Reserve. Then they fractionalized it during the Great Depression, stole all the gold, the physical owners of gold. And then, of course, in 71, they went full away from the gold again. So it's just another way for the government to, continuously being able to spend. They're not accountable whatsoever. Because what used to happen is when the government spent too much money and got into too much debt, well, they actually, people started to want their gold back because they said, well, my dollars are losing value. And then the government has to, okay, we got to get rid of some debt and we got to do something about the economy to get it back again. But that's not what they're doing today. They're just completely unaccountable, printing as much money. Everybody almost is. I was hearing something on the radio today about the city of Winnipeg and almost looking at $1 billion deficit just for the city of Winnipeg on top of the $521 billion million dollar deficit that we have in the province. On top of that, of course, the deficit, $1 billion deficit that we have on the federal government. So you can just see how, we're getting eviscerated by debt.
Yeah. Harrison Hardcastle just basically called gold barbaric rocks. No, sir, but whatever you smoking are barbaric rocks. Just kidding. Anyway, gold is not barbaric. It's a store of wealth. It's wealth insurance. It's not meant as an investment, etc. But yeah, crack is bad. Okay, that's a barbaric rock. Anyway, British Federation of Truth says, have you watched today's Peter Thiel interview? I have not. I haven't watched any videos today. I've just been going at it nonstop lately. It's been insane. Monk asks, what are gold derivatives? John?
Gold derivatives, well, of course, the most well-known gold derivative is the ETF, the GLD, which currently has about 520 contracts.
Sorry, I know you were kidding, Harrison.
Yeah,
I know.
520 contracts, of course, to the physical metal. So there's 520 claims on one physical, unit of metal. It's just insane. It's just crazy. And then, of course, you have the gold swaps that the central banks are using to then lend their gold out to somewhere else, of course. And it's just like creating all these paper derivatives on top of gold all the time. They're just like creating the ETF was like creating another fiat currency system out of the gold backing, like out of physical gold again, like on top of the US dollar losing, of course, all the gold backing. So it's just another, Ponzi scheme that they invented. So like all these paper gold, like unless you own it and have it physical in your hand, you're gonna get eviscerated if you think that you're gonna get anything back if you hold anything in paper form of gold value. And then of course you got the same thing when it comes to anything else. Like there's so much, paper assets out there today that nobody really owns the real thing anymore.
Well, someone asked, what do you think about Bitcoin Cash? Now, Bitcoin Cash, I don't have anything against it. It is fundamentally good. It's a bit more centralized when it comes to the mining power, etc. I do hold both Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash because I believe that, the free market will decide. I don't know why there's so much drama about it. There's so much drama about Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. You don't go up to someone and go like, oh, you invest in that stock? You're an idiot. You should invest in this stock instead. No, you mind your own business. If people want to invest in things, they invest in things, and the market will decide. So all the drama around it is mostly based around the fact that Bitcoin had high fees for a while and lost its fundamental value for a while, which is absolutely true, and it was a problem. However, Bitcoin, the transaction fees are next to nothing now, absolutely nothing, and the volume is higher, so people can't say, well, it costs less now and the volume's lower. No, it's more. There's more volume.
Well, I had an interesting experience. I was pretty drunk actually at the time in Acapulco, and there was only 3 guys left at the bar at 6 a.m. in the morning when we had to get going on interviews the next day. But I found it interesting that I wanted to just go and sit down with these guys. I was, drunk and wanted to just poke fun at some people, hang out. And I found out that they were the developers on Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash. And it was funny. So I started actually creating my own panel of asking them questions, coming after both of them, and they just called themselves called each other idiots or morons when I started to talk about it, and it was just funny. And then I started to, well, what about this coin? What about that coin? Well, none of them like that coin. So it's they don't want competition. They want a full monopoly, both sides on having a cryptocurrency.
Which is fair because it's a competing currency. Now, John says this happened, but
it happened, guys. Come on. I actually I think I took a picture of it. So if you don't believe me, I have a picture of it. Guys. Come on, Josh. It's like Josh coming down and screaming about the earthquake, and nobody believed him, but it actually was an earthquake.
Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. In Acapulco, we had this major 7-point-something earthquake right before we hung out with Ron Paul for a bit backstage. It was literally 10 minutes before that. But anyway, there's a huge earthquake. Everyone came running out of the hall. It was crazy. There's a couple people crying. Anyway, I think it was like 2 nights later. There's a pool thing where everyone was meeting up and they were just having conversations and networking. And I had to teach a class with Luke Radowski and Dan Dix, a Press for Truth and everything, the next day. Really early, and it was like 11-hour class. It was like ridiculously long class. I forget how long, 7 to 11 hours, somewhere in between that. And I went to bed, and I get into the bed, and I literally laid on top of the sheets, on top of the comforter and everything on my side for like 1 second, and then boom, I got thrown face first onto the floor, face first into the floor, and I'm like, what just happened? The whole thing's shaking. My the chandelier thing, or what do you call it, the lampshade, was going back and forth, and I'm like, oh man, everything's squeaking and rocking, and the windows are moving, and I'm like, oh,
it was a 5.9 earthquake.
Yeah,
so it's actually
and it was
like,
closer than the 7 something. Yeah. So I ran downstairs because someone banged on my door. And we all ran down the fire escape, got out of the building, and I run back to like this pool networking event. And
there was only like a few guys left. It was me, Anthem Blanchard, and like his partner,
and everyone's
and a couple
been drinking.
People,
Everyone's been drinking, and I go up to them. I'm like, "There's just a massive earthquake. I just got thrown out of bed." They're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
I'm like, "No, that just."
Well, I guess nobody felt it because we were drunk, and you're moving
already
around.
swaying.
Like, you feel like you're drunk. So
it was ridiculous. I'm like,
funny.
Everyone's like, "Dude, stop messing with us." I know he's joking. I know he's messing with us. And I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone because I'm like, I just got thrown on my face and it hurt. Anyway, the next morning I was vindicated when everyone was like, yeah, it happened. And then John, of course, he goes on his phone. He's like, let me look at earthquakes.
Yeah, and it wasn't up already.
Oh, there's no record of an earthquake. Josh, you're crazy. It's like, thanks, guys. Anyway, oh man, it was ridiculous. Crypto Frenchman British, the oldest coins with anonymity features, will be the winners. Wyatt Kemple says the problem is that people aren't using these cryptos as currencies. They are instead
that's one of the
hoping
big things that we need to implement. Exactly. We need to start using them as
bad.
When I actually was back in the day in 2014-15, I used Bitcoin all the time to just educate people and have them see, like, look at this, I bought pizza, I bought beer. We were hanging out at a restaurant that actually took Bitcoin. And it was interesting. People got really enlightened about that, and they started to get into it.
Yeah, but he spent like entire Bitcoins on pizza back then.
Well, yeah,
but probably not liking that too much now.
No, but again, like it's all about actually being able to use a currency, because if you just let it like stay stagnant and how are we gonna take over the centralized currencies out there if we can't use our currencies?
But wait a second. So like here's the issue that I have with that is that when we spend cryptocurrencies, it's the same thing as spending gold right now. This is for when the dollar crashes most of all. And of course, yeah, we need to implement them and use them as currencies, but we probably shouldn't be spending a whole bunch of cryptocurrencies before the crash happens, just like we shouldn't be spending a whole bunch of gold before the crash happens. When it happens, then yeah, you want to use it as a currency, and it will be an established currency. But before the crash happens...
You need to educate people though, Josh. I feel that's very important.
Well, yeah, like the speculation is ridiculous. A lot of people speculate on cryptos and expect to make a whole bunch of money fast, and that's not good. It isn't about that. It's about overthrowing central banks. But by spending it and trading it for fiat or things like that, then you're just losing potential wealth that you can use later on at a much higher rate for insuring your wealth. So I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of spending. I have spent Bitcoin. I don't like doing it. It's better when it's high to spend it, but all the same, I'm not a fan of spending it at this moment. I've used it for easy transactions. Like in Anarchapulco, all the ATMs were down for my bank, so there's no way for me to take any money out at all in pesos in Mexico, so I kind of got screwed. And so, the inefficiency of banks and credit unions, etc. So I got some currency off some people, some pesos, by trading them some Bitcoin for it, and they handed it to me. So yeah, that was very helpful at the time. But I don't think it's good to be trading it. Just like I wouldn't spend gold or silver right now.
Well, I'm saying not just spend all of your coins. I'm saying that it's important to actually start to use cryptocurrencies as a medium of exchange, because if you don't, then how are we going to educate enough people on the importance of it? So I see both sides, Josh. I understand what you're saying.
Satoshi's never spent his Bitcoin.
No, but again, it's he said it was like gold. So let's use Bitcoin as gold, but then use other currencies, other cryptos. Not all cryptos are made as gold. So let's use those as cash and save our Bitcoins and have that as a wealth insurance together with gold and silver.
Yeah, well, you certainly should have that ability to demonstrate how it works and how it's great and all that. But yeah, I just think for the most part you should be hodling for now. You can trade and scalp if you want. It's risky in this market because it's kind of bearish lately and you don't know what's going to happen next. But there does seem to be a trend line that's pointing to about 21K in the future, but it's hard to really put your finger on it because it all has a lot to do as well with FUD in the market due to media BS that's being spread around.
Yeah, and also I saw something up there about $29 an ounce at RBC. So that's crazy. Like I'm looking at silver gold bull, and you can buy an ounce of silver for almost $4 to $5 less. Mm-hmm. So don't go and buy any precious metals from the banks. The banks are ripping you off on a whole wide array of other things, so I wouldn't trust the banks for whatever you do with them.
LP Crazy says wait for the crash then buy cryptos. Well, you might want to buy right before the crash, because if you wait for the crash, no one will take fiat for
and continue to buy now. It's still low of what it's going to be. So you always should accumulate, or else you're going to regret, because there's so many people that regretted that they waited. That heard about it, and it took a while for me even to get in, and I regretted on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Zenithius, I think, Z3N17H1U5, Zenithius, I believe. Hello from Winnipeg. Hello to a fellow Winnipegger. Hello from Toronto, from LP Crazy. I think it was, let me see, Lita earlier that asked about... let me just scroll down here. So many comments coming in. Lita Blue says, thanks. Is there a crypto for pot? There is. There's one called Potcoin. I wouldn't exactly recommend it. It's
Dennis Rodman, I guess, isn't he one of the guys?
Yeah, he promotes it and pumps it by going to North Korea while wearing the shirt. I wouldn't, and going on Stephen Colbert with it. I wouldn't really get into it. I think that's a little speculative and risky, but yeah, there definitely is a Potcoin. It's called Potcoin. I tried to get into it right when he first tried to pump it, when he first went to North Korea, but then I was so hard getting a wallet that supported it, or even getting the original one, and then I tried to download the entire blockchain. It was a mess, and I didn't get it in time, and then it bounced and then crashed.
And it's like the Petro coin that Max Kaiser and others are talking about. I think that's just a scam from the Bolivar, from the Venezuelan government, in order to try to raise money. They're creating an ICO in order to raise money, and we know what a lot of ICOs are. It's a lot of garbage out there that has no fundamental value to it. And that's what the Petro, a crypto ICO is from Venezuela.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're going to take one more question, then we're going to go off line here, because we just did a few videos before this. We've been redoing a lot of videos lately too, because we've been messing up little things, or the audio messes up. But it's good because we're going to get out better quality videos because of it. This is just us off the cuff here, which actually most of our videos are totally off the cuff. We just get an article or something.
There's a couple of glitches maybe here and there, but we usually go just off of an article and
my scripted reports are here and there, but it's mostly just us talking back and forth and bouncing off each other on this stuff. Hello from Newport Beach, California, Gypsy Tree. I'm jealous. I'm going to be in California, San Diego, April 30th to May 7th, I believe, for Libertopia. Make sure to be there. I'm trying to think of...
San Diego.
Yeah, San Diego, close to...
For those who understand what that means. San Diego.
Close to Mexico. But anyway, I'm looking forward to getting out of the cold, though it hasn't been that bad up north here lately. It's been a warmer winter, even though it did hit minus 50 a few times. Anyway, let me just toss a coin here for what question we take. Just 1 second. Okay, this won't be our last question because it's a pretty simple one. But John Schneider asks, John, what is your full name? Josh always goes too fast for me to catch it.
Oh, well actually, he just says John Sneisen, and my full name is actually John Thor Stubb Sneisen, or in Norwegian it's Jon Tore Stubb Sneisen. So yeah, it's a long name, but I'm proud. My second name is Thor. It's after the god of thunder. We're gonna create some thunder. I'm gonna take my hammer over to the Federal Reserve and knock that building down with my hammer one day. So just wait when I get my superpowers, guys.
Metaphorically, of course. Don't come after us.
No.
But anyway, let's see one more question here. There's a few comments held for review, but it won't let me see what they are.
Held for a review.
British Federation of Truth says whale's vagina. Agreed.
Oh, he got it. He got San Diego. He got it. Funny.
Let's see. From Anchorman. I just remember that. Yeah. That's an old one, man. John Schneider says, thank you both for your work. I can tell you have a passion for this. Very cool. We definitely do.
Yeah. So why does, YouTube hold messages for review? That's interesting, isn't it?
I guess people harass people in the chats every now and then on YouTube. I'm not sure.
Well, we don't mind getting harassed. We don't really care.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor if we do, really. Let's see. Just trying to find a question. Do you guys have like a question? I can't find the question.
Give us a really nice question. Let's see who can come up with the best question now. You got 3 minutes, and then we're going to have to answer that question and go.
You got less than 3 minutes because we don't have that much time.
Yeah, let's...
someone commenting and posting on DTube after for the live stream. Some people are really resisting YouTube here. Should expand more news. Lita, yeah, I agree. We should expand more news. We're trying to get more people on board. I have a contest coming up soon that'll bring more independent reporters on board at WHAM. WHAM is supposed to be a channel, not a show. We're trying to get more people because there's only so much we can do at a time, and there's only so many things we could be looking at a time. So I want to bring more news into the mix. That's why I've been trying to do these Freedom Minute things live and then reposting them after as individual reports, because I feel like it really helps bring a lot of different context to a lot of different news stories quickly. But let's see. We will be getting more people on board at WHAM. I spoke with one guy last night who's about 20 years old and a ton of passion.
Great guy. Yeah, we'll talk about Acapulco.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that later on. He's going to try and submit some stuff.
Here we go.
But we are going to pick, let's see, the best question here. Oh, no. We're not going to talk about that. You have thanks for hard work. Sanity moment. Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Well, here's one that I kind of like that I can go into. GBS63 says, would a voluntarist society have government taxation is theft? I agree, taxation is theft, and yes, it would. However, it would be voluntary, so private contract governance rather than social contracts.
Yeah, and you can have that form of government, but I don't think it would last very long in a voluntary society with a non-aggression principle.
How can you steal from people if it's voluntary?
Exactly. So that's the problem. But they can try to have it, but you'll see that it will evaporate pretty soon. If you have the non-aggression principle in there, people will move from that place over to other greater societies that have better systems, and it's like a massive free market for ideas of society.
Yeah, absolutely. Individual demand of your dollar, etc. And just keep in mind, like, people have individual demand as products too. As individuals, they are a product to be put forward in front of other people.
It's looked at, for example, the stores. Since I came to Canada, the stores, with organic, it was almost next to nothing. Well, now today, it's like in Superstore, there's like a whole massive aisle now that actually has organic. So you have the power. You are an individual. You go out and vote with your dollar, and you will make changes happen.
Yeah, and I that's what I love about the reputation score system on STEEMIT.com is that it's like being in person. You meet someone. If you don't like the person, you don't like the person. If you do like the person, you do like the person. Everyone will stay away from a person that's a terrible person when they got better people to hang out with.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes for products. But of course, voluntarism and anarchy does not mean no government. It means no coercive government. So government cannot be forced upon you, but you as an individual can decide on being under a private contract.
But we are anarcho-capitalists, Josh. So of course, in our society, we wouldn't like a government or want a government.
Yeah, we wouldn't enforce an ideology on anyone.
In another one.
Yeah. Absolutely. We wouldn't enforce government on anyone, but individuals can choose to have their private societies.
Rules, laws, exactly.
Yeah, but it would be very small societies, and it would be impossible to have global wars and conflicts with such small voluntary societies. Anyway, let's see. British Federation of Truth, please get WHAM branded microphone foam cover. Your mic looks looks too small when interviewing. Thinking about small mics, hey? Well, at least we're not compensating for anything with small mics. If it was a gigantic mic, maybe. No, but I will say, though, the microphone cost a fortune. People keep saying we should get 2 microphones when we're talking and everything. That microphone is insanely costly. It took me years to actually get that microphone.
But we actually talked about it. We'll probably get it soon. Maybe we even get it before Josh, goes down to Libertopia.
Yeah, I'm not sure if... absolutely. I'm not sure if Staples exist in the States, but I will say I wanted to go to Staples and I got a mic box already. I just need the stickers put on them and everything. I already do actually have a microphone foam box thing for media.
But there's, like, I don't know, like we have it branded on the screen, so there's no point of really having a van mic when me and Josh does it. But yeah, I agree. If we're out there, doing interviews, it's great to, have the VAM,
Yeah, no, it looks good. That's why I love using Dan Dix's Press for Truth microphone. But yeah, I agree. It does look cool. It looks better. It looks more professional and all that. Yeah. And we will be working on that soon. We just had a few other things that we've had to focus on lately, but let me see for other questions here. We lied. We were doing more than one question, but I think we should just leave it one more question.
Yeah, but stop it because else we'll just go and go.
Okay, Andrea Nicatlin, I don't know.
Nicatlina?
Yeah. Anyway, how do you implement a libertarian society when there are crazy people in the world that will kill for anything? Also, how will your society be protected for being taken over by governments? Well, that's the thing. Individual defense. So people need to be able to defend themselves. Like, for example, with the whole terrorist situation, they go over there, they bomb all these people, innocent people, they make enemies, blow back, etc. Then they also arm these bad guys, these terrorist insurgent groups, and then they bring in a ton over and then give them welfare and then create divide and conquer within the populace to keep them infighting instead of fighting the real enemy. And then you create enemies and then you create wars, but then at the same time they take away the guns from the people at home. So we depend on government to defend us rather than ourselves to defend ourselves. And if there's a gun behind every blade of grass, no one will dare attack us. No one will dare hurt us.
And now, look at Switzerland. Look at Vietnam. What happened there? They lost the war. You know, so, yeah.
And private militias, not even militias, but Japan, private security forces actually have been more efficient historically. Look at San Francisco. Had a private police force for a very long time, and violence and crime and rape went up when they municipalized it, when they made it a public force rather than a private one, because there's individual demand. If there's private security forces and they do bad things, they get pushed right out of demand, and they don't make their money, and they don't have that.
You can actually get rid of them with the government that we implemented. You can't get rid of those guys very easily. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that it's important to look at Private Governance by Edward Stringham. It's a book. I interviewed him a while back ago. Great book, incredible research put into it. Every page has an insane amount of footnotes, and it goes into how to privatize basically everything. It is more efficient, and the free market, if it's a free market and not monopolized by government, will be great. But there will always be crazy people, and those crazy people will always try to do bad things. And if we are better defended, and we as individuals care about free market demand of individuals, then we are able to better defend against them. Government, regulations. The biggest murderer on the planet, the biggest crazy people on the planet are government. Biggest polluters, biggest murderers, absolutely. Who's killed more than anyone else in the last 100 years? Government, hundreds of millions of people. Biggest polluter, etc. And of course, we keep looking to government to fix the problems of government, and it'll never be fixed that way. We'll just go in circles, Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, repeat forever. So I think that's an important point to make. Yes, there will always be bad people. You can't change that, but we don't need a coercive force that murders more people than anyone to take care of that issue. We as individuals can much better take care of that. As communities too, as voluntary communities, we can do a great job of taking care of these issues, and we wouldn't have the central banking system. We wouldn't have these wars tied to the central banking system. It would be amazing. We got one more question here because Rick Sanchez just sent us one. It's the same name as a guy who used to be on CNN years ago, Rick Sanchez. He got fired. Are you Rick Sanchez? Yeah, but I think it was Rick's List or something. He did a thing on CNN when I was a little kid. Anyway, a guy named Rick Sanchez sent us 5. Is that euros or pounds? I can't.
Pounds.
My eyes aren't
pounds,
good right now.
Pounds.
Do you think that USA could be thought of as a bully? I've been looking at it, and the more I look.
Well, it's not even a bully. It's a freaking empire, and that's what they've created. They're out there, totalitarian empire. They're everywhere out in the world. They have 900 bases around the world, going and violating everybody's single individual freedom in those countries, and they're coming after everybody. They're just trying. When you have a hammer, which is the military industrial complex in the United States, you need everything becomes a nail, and you're just trying to find any type of and play to who can we invade next, who can we take some resources from in order to grow our empire. It's just exactly the same as the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Sung Dynasty, the big dynasties back in the Chinese empires with Khan and all those guys. It's the same thing. Like that's what it is. Yeah, and they're definitely bullying.
Yeah, I mean, they literally steal your lunch money by, you know, stealing your money out of your pocket, income tax.
Yeah, they created the Fed. They created the Fed, and then the Fed has control and works with all central banks around the world. You got to understand that. If you go and look at the Fed, and you go and look at the Federal Reserve Act, and you find actually there's the 11 central central banks, the state central banks around in the United States. They actually have their own jurisdictions. So some have the Bank of Norway, some have the Bank of Japan, and others. So they actually have control over all these other central banks around the world, and they work with them at every single point. And these banksters, and you know, they created a system where they created all these massive complexes: the military-industrial complex, the oil-industrial complex, the agricultural-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical industry.
And that isn't true capitalism either. That's corporatism. And I noticed there's a conversation going on in the chat just about capitalism, and you know, you can't have self-ownership with capitalism. Well, capitalism is absolutely voluntary. You sign up to work for different people, or you sell a product, and it's a individual freedom to exchange goods for services, voluntary. No one's forcing you to buy these things. You decide to buy those things, and you buy the best product for the best price, the best quality. And then there's innovation. There's actual incentive for innovation when you are able to compete in the market. If you do something bad, someone goes to the next best company after you, and you get pushed out of business. It all comes down to the real democracy of the individual demand, the vote of your dollar. There is no coercion in capitalism. There's coercion in corporate fascism or government enforcement upon you, the coercion. And,
and when it comes to the government itself, it's such a, you know, massive collusive energy that just takes over everything and eats up everything along its path. And you know, when it comes to capitalism, the word actually means free market. If you go and look at the dictionary, that's one of the meanings of it. And it is a free market, so that's why you can say capitalism is a free market.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people mentioned pay to live. Yeah. Pay to live. You pay to live if you want to live in this kind of thing, because someone provides a product, they build, they produce labor in order to produce that product, and then you pay for it to live there. Because of course, who's going to work for absolutely nothing and just build massive buildings and skyscrapers with no money coming back? It doesn't make any sense. That would be slavery. You'd have to force people to build it for you, like the Egyptians.
So nobody wants to really do anything with that. They say we got to free everybody. It's the resource-based economy idea, where we're going to free the world by creating a totalitarian technocracy at the top, an AI machine that controls everything, and then everybody's going to live in this la-la land, creating happy things and creating, I love the idea of creating fantastic things, traveling to the stars, but we could do that with a completely free market system where you actually incentivize people to go out and, do this.
And without government, you don't have to pay to live. You could live in the wild and be self-sustainable and build your own stuff without having to pay the government for, property taxes, etc. You can build your own property that no one else has taken, no one else has
Nobody
determined.
Owns it because you're not paying taxes.
Think of all the public land out there, the vast forests of Canada and the vast mountains and hills.
The crown land that
in the United States.
Queen owns.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know. It's just important to remember that you don't have to pay to live in a capitalist society. You have vast amounts of land that you could be self-sustainable in, and then possibly rent out a place for other people to live. Now, Eric Sanchez says, coming back to my question, is a U.S. forced to?
Yeah, and you are correct, because they are backed by the fiat currency system. You always got to got growth into that system, and that's why they always got to force more people on that US dollar standard. They're going to come into Iran because Iran doesn't like it. Look what happened to Libya. Everybody that is not a part of the system. Yeah, so it's definitely they're forced to, because they got to keep their system, going and being able to be sustainable. It's not sustainable, but the only way they can sustain their system is by, creating more and more debt slaves around the world and invading and controlling governments.
Absolutely. So, with that said, I'm cooking dinner, so I gotta go. But it was great talking with all of you. I really appreciate all the super chats. I really appreciate all the help. It really does mean a lot to us, because it helps us stay alive as we're demonetized, censored, etc. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Look at my other channel, Josh Sigurdson on YouTube. That's Josh Sigurdson. You can look it up as a channel in the search on YouTube. I'm trying to get a few more people to subscribe there because who knows what might happen to this channel eventually. Who knows? So get some more people over there and check out my crypto show tomorrow with Luke Rudowski. And thank you very much for all the great help that you have given us, the support. It means a lot to us. It's always great to see so many of you and be able to connect with you on the live chat and on these live streams. It's good to have John here for another live Q&A, etc. And we will continue to do this. It's good when someone else is helping too, because it's exhausting when it's just me talking the whole time. Anyway, we've got lots of videos going up soon. Make sure to stay tuned for that. And we will be back with much more. But until...
Yeah, well, spirituality and capitalism have both.
Yeah. Anyway, just looking at the chat and everything. So, until next time, thanks for watching, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth,